Hello, I'm Paul Hafner, and today we're going to take you through the steps of what it takes to take an application system off of a RoGator. Many customers find it beneficial to run two systems with the RoGator to increase their asset utilization. While having the ease to switch between a dry and a liquid system will allow you to cover more acres throughout more of the year. Now, changing out the system on a RoGator is a fairly simple process. And to make it easier on you, we're supplying you some parts to make that job easy. Some of the parts you'll find in the machine will be like this blocking plate. So when we remove the hydraulic pump that runs the system, we can install this blocking plate and it allows you to drive the machine without a system on it. Also included in the bag are a series of caps and plugs to take care of the hydraulic lines we'll be disconnecting through this process. Now, depending on how you want to disconnect the system, other caps and plugs may be needed, and we'll address those today as we take the system off. Now, the first step that we're going to take to remove this system from the RoGator is to disconnect the electrical from the system to the chassis. With the RoGator, it's a very simple process, as there's three connectors all on this harness right here. Inside the frame rail, we'll find the bulkhead connectors. We'll disconnect those, and then we'll secure this harness up out of the way so when we take the system off, we don't damage the harness. Now, after disconnecting the electrical from the system to the chassis, the next step is to remove the hydraulics. In this step, we're going to take the hydraulic system pump and we're going to disconnect it from the tandem pump underneath the cab. After that, we'll set the pump down and then remove the hydraulic lines from the pump, add the caps and hoses. Now that we move the hydraulic pump from underneath the machine and have it supported, we can remove the hydraulic hoses and cap and plug the lines. First, verify that the gate valve on the suction line is closed, so we do not lose all our hydraulic oil once the hose has been removed. Now we're going to install the blocking plate after we've removed the pump. This will allow us to move the machine once the system's been removed. Be sure that the gasket is properly in place, and we're using the bolts that came supplied with the kit. The last step that we have to do is remove the system tie downs. Front tie downs are on a spring. They can be just loosened up and have the tie down flipped down. Same on the rear of the machine. Loosen the nuts and the tie down can flip out of the way. And the system will be ready to be lifted off of the chassis. Now that we have the system ready to be removed from the chassis, we want to talk a little bit about proper lifting. Here we have an overhead hoist. You want to make sure whatever lifting equipment that you're using is rated for the weight of the system that you're going to be removing. You also want to make sure that you're using a proper spreader bar so we can spread out the weight of the box as we're lifting it off of the chassis. Here we're using an I-beam. H-frame spreaders are acceptable as well. And we're going to go to the 4 attaching points inside the main box. Now we're ready to lift the system off of the chassis. We have the lifting point secured inside of the box, and that's to our overhead hoist. We're going to lift this up, making sure that we keep an eye on our hydraulic lines as the system is being lifted to make sure they don't get caught up on anything on the way out. As always, make sure that when you're lifting the system, you stay out from underneath it. Now at this point, we'd be able to drive the RoGator out from underneath the system, and then we'd be able to place the system onto its transport cart.